1949. Let's start there. In 1949, World War II ended, and the suburbs were being constructed on all the farmlands that used to be surrounding our cities. The baby boom was occurred, and the freeways were being built by Eisenhower and the interstate system. And all of the existing urban or peri-urban farms were being plowed over, dug out, and creating tract housing, bedroom communities. Eventually, it wasn't called a peri-urban farm, we called it a suburb. Now, the suburb was great because it solved a huge problem, lots of housing near and around our cities. The solution of removing the farms meant a new problem occurred. The food supply is different. So in 1947, 75% of our food came from within a few blocks of our house. By 1951, it traveled over 1,200 miles. And that was because when the farms around each city became suburbs, the breadbasket, our Midwest, our Great Plains, became the freeway food system with cheap oil, with cheap transportation, with highly productive systems, with all of the chemicals previously used in war successfully being applied to agriculture. And the military's ability to lay bridges and do infrastructure became our bridges and freeways. So in the 70s, they wanted to connect the Interstate 101 to the beach. And there were protests. They wanted to pave through Golden Gate Park, make an interstate, building a new freeway from right here to the beach. And they fought it. They fought it from the 60s to the 70s. And so the freeway ends here rather than down there. Officially, we're protecting the parks. The freeway won't be built any longer. And in the 70s and the 80s continued. This was just the on and off ramp. This was what everybody used to get on and off the freeway. And then during the World Series, Giants versus A's, an earthquake struck San Francisco and the Bay Area. And the Bay Bridge collapsed, and the Embarcadero Freeway collapsed, and parts of the Central Freeway became compromised, so much so that they couldn't drive on them. This was one of those spots. 10 years after the earthquake, this had just been closed and argued about. It's 2 acres in the middle of the city from 1989 to 1999 were used for nothing other than parking city equipment. By 2000, the neighborhood association formed, the Hayes Valley Neighborhood Association. 10,000 people represented by roughly a mile around this place. That's a powerful voting bloc. And they met with the supervisors, they met with the city, they met with the state, and they got the land. And they said, if you don't want to make it a freeway, if it's no longer a city property, it's no longer state Caltrans property, interstate system property, the neighborhood wants it. We want to clean it up and we want to do something with it. Let's try something new. We know that real estate will come around. We know that the people are going to build the $12 billion condo project here. In the meantime, let's go for some new creative legislation. Let's create a new kind of rental agreement. Not a lease, but a license. Let's call it an interim use license. So it starts by us being partners with the city. We're not here in combatant. We're not occupying their space. We're not squatting on their land. And in partnership, when economy recovers, not if, but when, and when development starts, we move peacefully because we're not tied to the space. The thing we're tied to is San Francisco. The thing we're tied to is a healthier ecosystem in our city, and using this as a demonstration of what is possible in the temporary, so all of those vacant realities can be transformed. The common misconception is that this is some sort of farm, where it's really just a community center. And it's that it's producing food is a byproduct, not a focus. The focus is producing community and using the waste stream to produce something. And in this case, farms are easy because the waste stream is filled with soil. The city produces one thing very well, garbage, either in form of landfill, compost, recycling, or human waste. Like, we consume everything and we produce those 4 things to abundance. If you looked at a city as a black box, it imports everything and exports its trash. So is there a way to intercept that waste stream and send it back into the system, using it usefully? If you elegantly place it, you can grow food in it. If you find the marginalized spaces that nobody cares about and you elegantly place stuff there, you can have food growing where people want it. So how would you do that? Well, you need to have a community behind you and you need to have soil. So that was our plan. We weren't going to grow food. We were going to grow a community that supported the idea of urban agriculture. And we're going to produce soil in abundance from our waste stream. And as a result, one of the byproducts will be ridiculous amounts of food. So, hey, to ridiculous levels, this is already way too successful. We don't have to do anything more than shut it down successfully to demonstrate interim use works It's an option. You have vacant properties all over the city where people are waiting to sell it when the market returns. Those properties could be farms, classrooms, community centers, activated with love and care and stewardship, making them just better, and in their wake, when they leave, healthier. With 41 different species of birds that visit instead of 3. With ecosystems of communities that are like, what are we doing next? So when this place shuts down, come and get it. Fire sale, everything must go. Not we're burning it down like a fireworks. It's going to explode into 1 million pieces. And all of them should be joyfully creating new farms, not painstakingly losing the one that you put so much energy and time into. I can't rationalize fighting for this piece of land. It makes no sense to me. The common misconception that we're going to fight for it. We're going to chain ourselves to the trees. Why? This is an old freeway. And when it's done doing what it's done, which was demonstrate what was possible on interim space, we do this again. And we do it faster and better. And this year, in 6 weeks, we've already opened up 2 new farms using the resources available from our waste stream and primarily resources from here. And by the end of the year, there'll be 49 farms, one in every square mile. Active, not potential, not scouted maybe, but active places where people can go and do amazing things and gather around a community and come up with creative solutions to their problems. It would be silly to try to just drop a production farm and try to hire for it or staff it or volunteer it and try to make food. So what we decided was that we were going to demonstrate what was possible by turning that inside out. There's no staff, okay? There's no salaries. There's no one growing anything that has to be sold, and there's no rent. So we're just free to play. We call it play farm. We're not really growing food here. No one's taking the chickens out. No one's milked a goat here yet. But we have beekeeping classes and composting classes and food growing, and we can try it and fail, and nobody's worried because we didn't miss our quotas for the restaurant that's depending on it. There are urban farms that are production centered, and they're struggling to pay their bills, and they work their asses off. And for me, I believe that what we're doing here is a solution towards sustainability, not just a solution towards food. And if it's not fun, it is not sustainable.